Hi, welcome to Senior Moment, Successful Aging. I'm Mary Beals-Lutka, your host. I'm the Area Agency on Aging Director, and you can reach the agency toll-free at 871, I can speak really, 521-3500. So again, that's 877-521-3500. And also I would like to introduce to you, and she won't be on camera, but our new producer is Nancy Bennett, and you can reach her at 717-7607. We co-sponsor this show with Yavapai College Division of Lifelong Learning and the Area Agency on Aging. So again, welcome to Senior Moment Successful Aging. Our guest right now is Carl Erikson from AARP. Hi, Carl.
Hi, just pleased to be here, to be part of the show.
We're really happy to have you with us, and I just want to start out with, where are you from?
Right now I live in Litchfield Park, Arizona, down in the valley, and I've lived there for about 7 years now.
7 years, so 7 years in Arizona. And how did you get involved with AARP?
Well, when I settled in Litchfield Park, it's like a lot of people get involved in volunteerism. Len Kirshner, the current president of AARP Arizona, lost a couple of key volunteers, and we know each other from the community. He says, Carl, I have a real need in the area of 50-plus workforce and some other issues on the utilities. He said, would you like to learn about volunteering? So I said, okay, I will. And so he took me to some meetings with AARP volunteers, and I started with the 50-plus workforce. This was right when the recession was starting in 2009. And so I got some key training from AARP and made some presentations on people 50 and older who had lost their jobs and how they could compete in the marketplace to get a job with 30s and 40-year-old people. And it was a very interesting activity. In fact, AARP sent me to Orlando, Florida on a training on that. And we did some other presentations called Managing Multi-Generational Workforce, because right now we have 3 and 4 generations working in the same company or the same building. So we did presentations at various places around the city on managing a multi-generational workforce. However, you all understand the economy. There was a lot of people working in the workforce industry, basically trying to help people find jobs. So AARP kind of put that on the back burner, and I branched out into speaking in the AARP Community Educators Program, talking about Social Security and Medicare.
So you're a lead volunteer.
I'm a lead volunteer. I'm also, after a couple years of volunteering, they put me on the AARP Arizona Executive Council. We try to set policies that help the seniors in Arizona. And that's how, after doing this, the new program that we've really kind of moved into is on Social Security and Medicare, you've earned a say. We wanted our members to have a say about what's going to be happening on Medicare and Social Security going forward, because there's so many people in Arizona who use those programs. We wanted them to have a say in what they're doing in Washington.
And I would imagine also the other side of the coin is to bring them some facts.
Yes. When we started out with You've Earned a Say program, we went around the state, and the You've Earned a Say program from AARP, the first phase was just giving our membership, and those 50 and older, the facts on the challenges facing Social Security and Medicare, because there are funding shortfalls going forward, and there's a lot of conversation about those shortfalls. Many are true and many untrue. So AARP wanted to get the accurate information out to our membership in a format that we could explain it to them in a conversational setting, because we really wanted to have a conversation with our members.
So what have you been doing in the Prescott area on that Earned a Say?
This is great. You've Earned a Say. We've been all over the state. And I've been the lead volunteer on that, but we have about a dozen speakers around the state. And we've done presentations here in the city of Prescott. We've done it also Prescott Valley and Stonebridge. We've been out there. We had two, Betty Donald and Lisa Imburgia, some local residents from Prescott. They've been very involved in helping us do You've Earned a Say. They've gone down to Cottonwood. But not only have we been in the valley, we've been in Flagstaff, Prescott, Western Arizona, we've done Bullhead City and Parker, and we've done Tucson, so we've been to a lot of places making these presentations. Let me just explain something about You've Earned a Say.
Please.
It's a 4-part program. The first one, like I said, the first part of the program, it's about a year long, was explaining the challenges of what's facing Medicare and Social Security. The second part, Washington and our congressmen are coming up with proposals to fix it. There's about 12 proposals for Social Security and 15 for Medicare that they're actively looking at. And during our phase 2 of You've Earned a Say, we covered 5 each, 5 proposals from Social Security and 5 from Medicare, and we gave pros and cons about those, and let the people who attended these events understand what the pros and cons were. The third part of it is going on right now, and we have a voter's guide. We have an online voter's guide where if you log on to earntosay.org, and we'll give you that information a little bit later on the screen, and you plug in your address and your zip code of where you live, it will give you your district, who's running. It'll give the information on all the things they've said in the last year about Medicare or Social Security, starting with the president, the Senate, congressmen, and local politicians all the way down. So that's the third part. And then the fourth part, after the election's over with, the fourth part of You Earned a Say is the accountability phase. Those people who win elected office or keep their seats, we want to hold them to what they've said they were going to do as far as maintaining and sustaining these programs.
That is excellent. I was just going to ask you, how do I find out, because I didn't attend the conversations. I'm sure they were lively.
They were.
I'm sure they were lively conversations, because it's very much on all of our minds. I'm an AARP member myself, and so I'm interested in going on to that website, because right now a big push obviously is please vote, be informed, know what's going on, and I love the accountability piece. So are you you have volunteers that keep track of that and
yes,
plug that in?
Here's how this, on accountability, here's what, we have the national office to help us with that. But when we had these community conversations, when we talked about proposals on Medicare, for example, what AARP did, because we have memberships, we have 40 million members. We have about 40% are Republicans, about 40% are Democrats, and about 20% are independents. So we just try to give them the facts. And so when we talked about the proposals, we had people from the Brookings Institute on one side and the Heritage Foundation on the other. So 2 distinct points of view, giving pros and cons of different fixes for Medicare and Social Security. And when we showed these to the people participating in the conversation, and we asked them to vote. Now, how do you feel about these proposals? And they would vote and fill out a questionnaire, and then we sent all this information back to AARP office in Washington, D.C. They've had over 1 million responses from around the country. So we're getting a lot of information back to the Washington, D.C.
And it's good to know, because I know that that's a question that comes up for me. Well, does AARP look at the local views? And obviously that's what you're doing.
Yes.
What do you see as possible changes coming up after the election? Of course, I know you don't have a crystal ball.
No. Well, the thing when we talk about changes, first let me talk about Social Security. And when we have conversations with our membership, or people 50 and older, the most important thing they talk about is sustaining the program. Because we have a slide here, Arizona at a glance, that shows you the population in Arizona and how many people are on Social Security. For example, we have about 6 million people living in Arizona, and a little over 1 million of them are on Social Security. So 1 out of 6 of our residents are on Social Security, and nearly as many are on Medicare. And as you travel around, you understand that of those people who are collecting Social Security, for 1 out of 4 of them, the Social Security check makes up most of the money that they live on. And so it's really an important thing. So when we talk to getting back to your question, the challenge is the most important thing is we need to sustain the program, and it will be running out of money about 20 years in the future if everything stays the same and nothing is changed, tweaked, or modified. In about 2033, the only source of income for Social Security will be the people working, paying into the system.
Right, and obviously, that pyramid is changing.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot less people working and more people in the system. I'm a baby boomer. That's going to affect it greatly moving forward as well. Do you think that the solutions will include benefit cuts?
Well, we don't know if that, or we can't speculate what they're going to do. But for Social Security, there are some changes they can make or modifications. For example, if they change the way they compute cost of living adjustments, if they use different formulas, they can extend the program. There's a cap on donating. That 6.2% that comes out of your paycheck every week, the FICA that goes to Social Security. After you have wages of $110,000, you don't pay into the system anymore. One of the proposals is to raise the cap. There's a few proposals to continue to raise the eligibility age, and many people consider raising the eligibility age.
That's a hard word to say fast.
FRA. Okay, the eligibility age, that's a cut. But basically, Social Security is easier to predict because Medicare has other issues with healthcare. But the one thing about Social Security, with tweaks and modifications, it can be put on much firmer ground. And the key to that, if we could get the economy going again and getting more jobs and higher paying jobs, then people would contribute to it, and it would really put it on a firm foundation.
Now, is it part of the general fund still? Or you don't know?
Social Security really is not.
Okay.
Medicare, there's a significant amount paid out of the general fund.
Okay.
Social Security right now does have the trust fund and people paying in. So that right now it's in much better shape than Medicare.
Right, and I know that's a comment that I've heard in forums that we've done is people want to make sure that that's a separate fund and that it's not tapped into for anything else. And I think that's part of the preservation and sustainability of Social Security, keeping that going. We talked about the benefit cuts about Social Security possible, but let's touch base on Medicare. What are some of the proposals and the changes in Medicare coming up?
Okay, let me just talk, switching gears. AARP, though, has always said that the two pillars for financial security for seniors are Social Security and Medicare. And the challenges facing the Medicare are similar but a little more extreme than Social Security. The first thing, let me say, is that over the last 20 years, the cost of health care has, without exception, has exceeded inflation. So if inflation went up 1 or 2%, the real cost of health care has gone up 4 or 5%. That's one of the biggest challenges. The other fact that really causes a problem for Medicare is the baby boomers. I'm one of those.
We're guilty.
10,000 a day are moving into to Medicare. So that's more people going in. In fact, in about 20 years, we'll have almost 80 people using Medicare. Another issue is the birth rate is falling. So there's fewer people being born. There's less workers. And that's a real challenge for Medicare. So there's significant challenges going forward there.
When you talk about AARP, I know a lot of times they do set a national agenda after listening to the local level. So is AARP going to support benefit cuts, and if so, which ones?
Well, talking with AARP and with our membership, the key thing is to sustain the program. Okay. It's one of those, we're in a situation where you can't just say you're going to do nothing and keep it the same, because Medicare Part A, which is the hospital portion of Medicare, in about 6 or 7 years, at the current rate, it's going to go broke. And that's because your Medicare Part A is funded by that Medicare on your paycheck you pay in, that 1.45%, and that only covers about 60% of the cost of the hospitalization. The other 40% comes out of the general fund. The Part B, which is your physician and outpatient services, that's supported by premiums that our seniors pay. That it's about $100 a month, and then Part D, which is the prescription
medicine
drug, that's provided by private insurance, and you pay premiums to get that. So, but the hospital Part A is a significant challenge there.
So, yeah, we already talked about Social Security. It's not going broke, but obviously there has to be changes. And so, in your conversations, did you talk about healthcare, the overall umbrella of healthcare and the cost of healthcare and the effect it's having on Medicare and our whole budget issues?
Yes, and some there are certain proposals or key proposals in Washington to fix and sustain Medicare, just like Social Security. AARP narrowed it down to 15 key proposals that Washington is talking about right now. In our You've Earned a Say, we talked about 5. In some of the proposals being talked about, and these are actively being discussed by Congress, is raising the full retirement age for Medicare to 67. It's currently at 65. So that's raising it by 2 years would fill the gap on some of the costs, and it would keep in the same age range for retirement as Social Security, because they're moving that up to 67. So that's one of the proposals. Another proposal that's really being considered is when someone on Medicare goes to a lab for blood work or whatever, or if they need medical care outside of the hospital. Right now, there's no co-pays for those. But that creates a financial burden for Medicare. They're talking about making those, if you go to have lab work done, co-pays for that type of activity.
Now, in the proposals that you reviewed, did they also talk about what they're doing right now at CMS with the senior Medicare patrols and the fraud fighters that are out there? And that's a volunteer base.
Yes, that fraud comes up all the time.
Yeah.
And every time you have a conversation with tort reform comes up with all our conversations all over and there's people have a strong opinion, and the voucher plan comes up as and there's a lot of things that come up because in Arizona the Medicare Advantage is a huge issue for the people on Medicare. In Arizona, well, across the country, only about 20% of the people on Medicare take Medicare Advantage. But in Arizona, we've had such strong programs that about 40% of the seniors who live in Arizona have Medicare Advantage. So that always comes up in conversation. And maintaining the funding for that is going to be hard to do going forward.
And I know that, one of the things that we've looked at is the fact that, when they say they're doing cuts to Medicare right now, really they're just taking away the subsidies that they've been giving the Advantage plans and making it even playing field between the regular Medicare plans and Advantage plans. So that's a myth. It's a myth.
Yes.
That they're not taking away something. They're saving money across the board because they're not paying those insurance companies extra dividends.
You're exactly right on that. The cost of maintaining someone on a Medicare Advantage plan is 14% higher than maintaining an individual on original Medicare or traditional Medicare.
And certainly, what I hear, you're taking away our Advantage plan. No, I think the big companies will stay in business. Maybe the smaller ones are going to fall aside because they can't afford it. Maybe they'll compete more and help us all with better prices.
Right.
So that is the hope, obviously. Now, you mentioned a little bit about you've been listening all over the country, I would assume, and then it goes to Washington, and then what happens to the information that we're feeding back to you? Okay,
the AARP has a volunteer board in Washington, D.C., and we have a volunteer policy board. Like I mentioned earlier, we have over 1 million responses back there. They take a look at what is our membership saying, what is their concerns. They couple that with working with the Policy Institute in Washington, and they develop programs so that when you go on our voters guide, you'll see if there's, for example, if someone's running for the Senate seat in Arizona, you'll have a list of what they've said about Medicare and Social Security, and then you'll see what ARP traditionally says and how our membership feels about those same questions or topics.
That's nice.
So we're trying to give during this selection, with the information we collect, the views of our membership and the traditional policies of ARP, which, as I said, I keep saying this, but sustain both pillars, both programs. That's what we want to do.
That's the main goal.
Yes.
So how does someone get involved maybe with with the You've Earned a Say? I can say that two times. You've earned a say. How do you get involved and maybe ask for another presentation in Northern Arizona?
Yes, there's on You've Earned a Say. If you would like a presentation in your community, you can call the Arizona State Office, which is in Peoria, Arizona. Another thing, AARP sends out emails to our members all around the state, and we've done teletown halls on You've Earned a Say. We've had as many as 9,000 people on the call at once, just listening to the challenges and sharing. So you'll hear more communication from AARP on opportunities for presentation. There's also, we're looking at having voter forums where we have a chance to talk to people running for office. We're trying to get some scheduled. One in Prescott and one down in the Valley for those running for office. So with those type of forums, people can get more information on these issues
and
also.
We'd be very interested in having a forum up here.
We're trying hard, I know.
Please let us know. I know, again, Yavapai College and the Area Agency on Aging, really work hard to get information out and want to be part of that. I want to be part of that, absolutely, as we move into this election time. So, I didn't ask you, but what is your background?
Okay, as a volunteer, I'm a retailer. I worked for J.C. Penney Company for 40 years, and I did management all around the country. I've lived in 11 states. I ran 5 different stores. I did marketing in the home office for men's apparel. I did district work, and I did sales promotion work and public relations. So I've done a number of things over 40 years, and then I chose to retire in Arizona. So
we're glad to have you here. Well, how about being a volunteer at AARP? What do we have going on up here in the Prescott area? I know that I've talked to Sean Trobia at AARP and like to have more of a presence up here and more involvement from the Quad City area. Okay,
interesting. AARP, our state office, we only have 9 paid staff in the entire state office. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of volunteers, and we've designated Prescott as a priority city for, I should say that, but over the last year, Sean Trobia from our state office, we've been working with we've developed a lot of key volunteers up here, and it's grown. Our presence in Prescott and Prescott Valley has really been growing, and so we've added, we're trying to grow in the Tucson area, and there's a program that AARP Arizona does with volunteers. It's called the Community Educators Program, and we go around. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but we go around the state in English and Spanish and give presentations on the ABCDs of Medicare, so people just coming in the system know how to sign up and the basics of how it works. We do the same thing for Social Security, and we also do a presentation on the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, on how it impacts your health situation. So the community educator program is growing. We have volunteers in Prescott and around the state, and bilingual. So we're very proud of that program.
So we could call the state office to find out more information. What's that? Do you have that number? We'll put that up on the screen. We'll put that up on the screen and make sure that you have that.
The next event that we'll be doing, if you're curious, the Financial Fest they have in Maricopa County. In November, we have the Financial Fest in Scottsdale, and we talk about the ABCDs of Medicare and planning for Medicare, because that's very important to your financial security. That's the next big event we're doing.
And also I know, and I would like to thank you publicly, AARP is a major patron for the Area Agency on Aging Conference for Elder Issues in Flagstaff. So we really appreciate your support and your partnership, and really appreciate you being here with us today. Carl Erikson, lead volunteer for AARP. So thank you again for being here today, and thank you for joining us. And again, our producer is Nancy Bennett, and you can reach her at 717-7607 if you have questions about today's show, or you might have ideas about things you'd like to hear about. We would love to hear from you and find out, hey, I'd like to hear this on the show, or I'd like to see this on the show. Also, the contact information for AARP will be on the screen, but also you can call Nancy again with the Division of Lifelong Learning. And again, I'm Mary Beals-Ludka from the Area Agency on Aging. You can reach us toll-free at 877-521-3500 with any questions you have to do with aging or long-term support services. This is Senior Moment, Successful Aging. Thank you very much. Until next time.